Hello and welcome back. This is in the 5th and 6th grade decimals video, and this video's focus will be on how to do multiplication with decimals. Okay, here is our first example. So we're going to multiply the decimal 8.5 times 7.2. So we're actually going to do this in two parts. The first part is where we're going to ignore the decimals and then multiply. And then the second part is where we're going to take that multiplication answer and then put the decimal back in. So let's go ahead and rewrite this as a multiplication problem without decimals. That means ignoring the decimals, I'm going to end up with 8.5, or sorry, not 8.5, 85 on top and 72. Okay, so I just took out the decimals. That's all I did. Now I'm going to multiply these together. So 5 times 2 is 10. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So there's my first row. I'll cross this off and this and add a 0 down here. 5 times 7 is 35. So I'll put a 5 here and regroup the 3. 8 times 7 is 56, plus 3 would be 59. So I'd put a 9 here and a 5 here. And then I'm going to add them all up. So 0, and then that would be 12. And this would be 11, and this would be 6. So after multiplying, my answer is 6,120. Now here comes part 2, where we're dealing with the decimals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a decimal right here at the end of my answer. Then I'm going to move my decimal to the left the same number of spaces as I had decimals in the original problem. So in the original problem, it was 8.5 and 7.2. That means I had two digits that were in decimal place values. That means I need to move the decimal to the left 2 places. So I'm going to move it here and place it right there. So this final answer is going to be 61.20. And as you know with decimals, if it ends in a 0 past the decimal, if the last digit after the decimal point is a 0, you can just cross it off. So that is also 61.2. Okay, here's our next example. We're going to multiply 0.21 times 0.32. So again, first step is to ignore the decimals and multiply. So I'm going to rewrite 0.21 as just 21 and 0.32 as just 32. Okay, so 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So there's the first row. I'm going to add a 0 and cross this off. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so let me go ahead and add those up. That's 2 here, 7 here, and 6 here. So now that I'm done with the first stage, which is multiplying, I need to go and back and deal with the decimals. So I'm going to add a decimal here to the end of my answer. I need to move that decimal to the left the same number of spaces as I had decimals in my original problem. So this number had 2 decimals, and this one also had 2 decimals. That means they had digits in 2 decimal place values. So that means I need to move that decimal 4 places. So I'm going to move this 1, 2, 3, and 4 and put it right here. Now, if after you move the decimal, you end up with an empty space, you're going to fill that in with a 0. So the final answer to this would be decimal 0, 6, 7, 2, and then with a decimal in the front. So this is your final, or sorry, not a decimal, a 0 in the front. So this is your final answer, 0.0672. Okay, here is our next one. It's 6.92 times 2.9. So again, first step is to ignore the decimals and multiply. So I'm going to rewrite 6.92 as 692. And then 2.9 becomes 29. Now, if you have a different way of multiplying these other than, because what I'm doing is a standard algorithm. If you have a different way that you like to multiply your numbers, please feel free to use it. Doesn't matter which method you use to multiply. It only matters at the end when you add a decimal to the end and you move it, which you would do the same thing no matter how you multiply these. So 2 times 9 is 18. So I'll put an 8 here and regroup that 1. 9 times 9 is 81, plus 1 would be 82. So 2 here, 8 here. 6 times 9 is 54. Let's see, and then 54 plus 8. There's going to be a 12 here and a 6 here. So that's 62. Okay, now I'm going to add a 0 here. Cross this off, cross these off. 2 times 2 is 4. 9 times 2 is 18, so 8 here and a 1 here. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Okay, now we're going to add those together. So we're going to get 8, 6, 10, and then this is going to be 9, another 10, and then a 2. So the final answer after multiplying is 20068. Now I need to go ahead and add a decimal to the end of the answer and think about how many places I'm going to move that decimal to the left. So I count 2 decimals here and 1 decimal here. So I'm making a total of 3 decimals in the original problem. So I need to move that decimal 3 places. 1, 2, 3, puts it right here. So final answer is going to be 20.068. Okay, here is the next one. We're going to multiply the decimals 4.45 times 46.31. So same thing we're going to do here. We're going to rewrite these, ignoring the decimals. Now, what I might do is take that second number, since it has more digits, and put it on the top if I'm going to use standard algorithm. So I'm going to rewrite that as 4631, taking the decimal out. And then I'm going to put the first number right under that. So 445. The reason I do this is because when you use standard algorithm, you want the number with the most digits on the top. So even though I noticed that the other number that came second had more digits, so I wanted to put that on the top. Now, I could go ahead and show you how to multiply this using standard algorithm, but it's going to take quite a bit of time. So I'm just going to tell you that after I multiplied it, I got this: 206,0795. It was a big, long number. And I don't want to bore you for it by having you watch me do all that. And remember, any way that you multiply your whole numbers, it doesn't matter. As long as you get the same answer, it's all good. And then you can deal with the decimals. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a decimal at the end of that answer. I'm going to need to move that decimal to the left, the same number of spaces as I have decimals in the original problem. So this number had 2 decimals, and this number also had 2 decimals. So that makes a total of 4 decimals. I need to move this decimal for the answer 4 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and plop it right there. So the final answer here is going to be 206.0795. Okay, here's our next example and our last example for today's video. We're going to take 23.5 and multiply it by 53.73. So again, I'm going to rewrite those without the decimals and put the one that has the most digits on the top if I'm using the standard algorithm. So that means I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to rewrite that as 5373 because it has 4 digits. This one has 3 digits, so I'll put that one next. 235, taking out the decimals. Again, this is a big one, and I could make you watch me multiply this, but I don't want you to be bored. So I'm just going to tell you that this is going to be 1, 2, 6, 2, 6, 5, 5 when I'm done multiplying it. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter how you multiply your numbers. If you use a different method, that's fine. So let's go ahead and place a decimal at the end of that answer. I need to move the decimal to the left, same number of spaces as I have decimals in my original problem. So this one has 1 and this number had 2, making a total of 3. So I need to move it 3 decimal places. So 1, 2, 3, and the decimal is going to land right there. That makes the final answer for this 1,262.655. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope to see you in another video soon.